Recording in progress.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم. So on our end, myself, I'm here, Ubaidullah, and with me I have Mufti Abdullah. We're sitting together on this end. And inshallah, we have joining us few masjids from across New York and Long Island area. So I want to start off by talking about the objective of the Maktab program. The objective of the Maktab program is to connect the Muslim children and their families to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam and deen through the source of ilm, through knowledge. Now, when we want to pass on the knowledge, we're talking about the knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. So obviously, when someone is coming to us in the Maktab program, they're coming at a very young age. Maybe they're coming at the age of anywhere between 5 to 6 years old. And then they're staying with us maybe until high school. Then we have seen probably in multiple masjids, or many of us have first-hand experience that once the students hit 7th, 8th grade, then they stop being consistent. And at that point, sometimes it's hard to recognize them if we see them somewhere. So the plan that we are making for the children is not until where at the age that they tend to leave, but we want to make a plan for them all the way from kindergarten, from the date they come in, all the way until they finish high school and even go to college. So from our perspective, we need to have an entire roadmap, and inshallah, that's what we're going to walk you through. So in the initial stages of Maktab, we usually focus on 4 areas. So before I go there, remember this resource that I'm going to show you. Inshallah, afterwards, I'm going to give you access to that resource, inshallah. Let me just see if I can. Yeah, okay. It hasn't come through yet. What is it? The email. The email that I'll send it to them, inshallah. This email. For some reason, it didn't do it. So once you have access to the resource, just request access and I'll give you access. You have 3 areas to choose from. Mainly the 2 areas are important. One is the Hifz program, one is the Maktab. As of now, what happens is what we have seen the tendency that the majority of the masjids, they start with the Maktab program. And within 3 years of running the Maktab program successfully, they start a Hifz program. And we have numerous examples of that, of masjids starting with the Maktab and 3 years jumping to the Hifz program. And I will inshallah walk you through how that's actually physically possible and how others have done it. So let's click on the Maktab program. In the Maktab program, you have all these resources. We want to go straight into the Maktab teachers resource. As you can see, Maktab teachers resource. So we click on this and it brings us to this page. I want to first start with the syllabus. So these are the 4 components of the Maktab initially in the basic stages. One component is the Qa'ida, Quran reading, which we say Nadira, Tilawa. The second component is the Islamic studies. The third component is the memorization syllabus, which involves memorizing surahs, memorizing du'as, and memorizing the names of Allah. And the fourth component is what we call the practicals. Anything in their Islamic studies or in the memorization that can practically be applied, we have to come up with a mechanism in the Maktab program to allow them to apply that, okay? So in order to make this work, there's a few things that we need to have. First of all, we need to have a clear-cut understanding of the curriculum and the time frame. For example, let's say we say Qa'ida. How long do we want a child to stay in the Qa'ida? How much progress do we want to do in the Qa'ida on a month-to-month? If they're doing Quran reading, how much progress do we want the students to progress in terms of Quran reading month-to-month? And how much do we want to see them achieve by the end of the year, right? So a clear-cut understanding of the curriculum, class-wise and individually, that's something that's one of the primary keys to success for any given teacher. Number 2 is similar, it's the memorization syllabus. We need to know how many surahs, how many du'as are the children expected to learn in a particular semester, month, semester, and year. And we have to make sure we are providing that with high quality. So we're not saying just finish the syllabus. We're talking about how to finish the syllabus with high quality. And then we have the Islamic studies. Usually Islamic studies are book by book, which I will show you a sample of. However, based on age, it differs. For extremely young children, it's more of an oral, where the teacher usually focuses more on the memorization. But when the children get bored, they usually try to bring in some stories from the Islamic studies to keep them busy, and mentally keep them busy and also make them enjoy the maktab. But then eventually they are too old to actually complete the workbook and the course book. So once we come back to that, maybe 1 year later, we make them repeat that year again. So they sometimes do the year one book twice. Once they do it orally, and once they do it, as we say, with the workbook. And that's when we consider them to have finished the year, that particular year. Now you also have students who are of a higher grade, but they have never done fundamental Islamic studies. For them, we don't expect them to do one book a year. We expect them to do maybe 2.5 books a year. So the pace of the Islamic studies would not be like blank across the board. It would be based on the actual class that each teacher has. And I'll give you a template of how you can actually plan that as well. And then we have for example, if a maktab has students who are 14 plus and they don't even have a foundation, then for there we have a separate Islamic studies book, which is called the further studies. And the students are expected to read from there, as they will most likely stay with us for 2 years, and we have to give them the life lessons that they need until they die within those 2 years. So as I said again, the fundamental aspect of maktab to be successful is in the planning. If we are planning in an organized way, planning according to the need of the time and planning according to the age of the children and understanding where they come from, then only can we expect to succeed. And obviously, we don't want to compromise quality. Then we have the memorization. Again, memorization for younger children is the majority of their time goes into qaida, nadira, maybe qaida, I would say qaida and the memorization, and very little time goes into actual Islamic studies. And as they progress, the qaida and the nadira decreases in time, and the progression of the Islamic studies increases as they're getting older and they need more of that, and they already know how to read the Quran. So there's two fundamental keys here. One is planning, one is executing, and one is having a testing model to ensure that our execution is being done on a solid foundation. So let's start with the first part of the syllabus. Which part would the teachers like me to cover first? You have 3 choices. I can start with qaida first, or the memorization of the Islamic studies. So I will wait for a chat, someone to respond. Which one should I go for first? Just to make it interactive. Does anyone can give a message? Which one should I go first? Yes, brothers and sisters, anyone can give an opinion so I know everyone is listening. Otherwise, I think I'm talking to a screen. Which part of the maktab should I go first? The Islamic studies? Oh, perfect. Bismillah. Okay, let's start with the fundamentals. Now, before even I start with the qaida, let us look at scenarios. One scenario is that the students, or you have a brand new group of students and you're starting them from scratch. That's one scenario. Scenario 2 is, let's see what we have here. 1 second. Qaida. Perfect. Scenario 2 is you have students who have already started the qaida maybe 6 months to 1 year ago. And there are some students are basically all over the place, mix and match. Some are in the 3rd page, some are in the 5th page, some are at the last part, some are maybe doing the last page of qaida. Then sometimes we have even a more complex mix and match, where we have some students doing qaida in the same class and some students doing nadra tilawa in the same class. But fundamentally, what is the main issue? The main issue is maybe they don't know what's ikhfa. Maybe they have a makharij issue. Maybe they have a makharij problem and they're in the end of qaida. They cannot pronounce something right. Or they don't recognize ikhfa, idgham, idhar, iqlab. Or they don't recognize the difference between madd muttasil and munfasil. Whenever they see a long sign, they make it long. They don't see a long sign, they don't make it long. They don't know the difference between ghunna and wajib ghunna. So basically, I'm talking about practical scenarios that we are facing in different situations, right? So let's look at scenario 1, in which the children are all brand new children and we're starting together. The best way to move forward in this scenario would be to spend majority of the time of qaida together. So we try to keep them all together majority of the time. So for example, let's go to the timetable. I'm just going to go to timetable just to give you understanding. Let's say this is a gist of a daily schedule, 5 to 7, right? So we have 5 to 5:40 p.m. where the children are doing their individual qaida and nadira. This is sorry, this is the what do you call? I made a mistake here. Tasmiyah and supposed to be makharij. Makharij. Okay, so let's do it again. 1 second. Just give me a second, please. Okay, so this will also change. This will also change into, if everyone is on the same page in the qaida, then we would probably do 5 to 5:30. 5 to 5:30 or 5 to 5:20, we will do individual lessons. What are we doing? We're basically listening to them. So they're coming into class and everyone is coming to a teacher and they're reading whatever they have learned maybe the last 3 days. So they're coming and giving that to the teacher. So the teacher is individually listening to each child to make sure that whatever they have learned in the past, they're saying it perfectly. And whenever someone is making a mistake on the spot, don't send the child back, because we're talking about very young children. On the spot, make the child correctly recite that multiple times, as many times as it takes until they are reading it right in front of you. They have to read it right correctly at least 3 times in front of you before you know the child has fixed that problem, unless obviously it's a tongue issue. So in a situation where majority of the students are in qaida together, we will do 20-25 minutes of collective qaida, individual qaida, which is listening, and then the remaining 15 minutes we will do collective qaida. Collective qaida, for example, let's go back to the qaida. Where are we? Where was the qaida? Wait, where was he? Here. So for example, we are saying alif, ba, ta. I would prefer, if the children are too small and they cannot focus, we have 4 qualities. Number 1 is they have to look inside, they have to point with their fingers, they have to read loudly, and they have to listen to what they're saying. This, I'm repeating myself, this is the golden rule. If you can kindly note it down, I'm humbly requesting the teachers to note it down. There are 4 sifat. If the children are not reading the qaida or nadira with these 4 qualities, then unfortunately they will not learn, or if they learn, they will not remember. 4 rules. Number 1, look inside. Number 2, point with your fingers. Number 3, read slowly and loudly. Number 4, listen to yourself. Listen to yourself read. So look inside, point with your fingers, read slowly and loudly, and look and listen to yourself. These are the 4 qualities that every child must read the qaida with. So again, if we can make them follow that golden rule and we can teach them from the qaida, alhamdulillah. If you cannot, then please use the board. Don't forget the qaida. The qaida is not as important. It's more important to make sure that they're focusing on something. So if they cannot focus in the book, then they have to focus on the board. Number 1. Number 2 is, when we're teaching them the makharij, fundamentally, the area where many of us do make a mistake is contradiction. We teach the children something in one manner, and then later on we make them erase and teach it the same thing to them in a different manner. I'm giving you an example. So ba, ta, and tha, these are all madd asli, and some of us, we call it madd tabi'i, right? That means there's technically supposed to be 1 alif long. However, Jim is basically what we know as madd arif waqfi, right? If you see Jim on the top and Jim on the bottom, you have Jim, ya, mim. So that's a madd tabi'i or madd asli, and we are stopping on a madd tabi'i or asli. So the madd tabi'i asli changes into madd arif. So yeah, so let me show you the mouse here. So here, right? So what does that mean? That if we teach a child Jim, and then later on, maybe 20 lessons down the line, we're teaching madd arif waqfi, and we're teaching them whenever you stop any madd asli, you're supposed to make it long. Then basically they initially learned something as Jim, and then now we're telling them, no, I was actually wrong. It's supposed to be Jim. So that contradiction is not helpful for the children, for any student in general. So we have to make sure that when we're teaching the makharij, we're teaching them with the proper length. They cannot learn Jim. They have to learn as Jim. Okay, now let's keep moving forward. Ha, dal, dal, ra, za, sin, sin, sheen. Now here, in the letter Sad and Bad, we have actually 2 rules. One rule is obviously the madd arif waqfi, and the second rule is the sukun on the dal. The sukun on the dal is which rule? Quickly see if everyone is still awake. What is the rule of sukun on the dal? Can I have a quick response, please? Qalqala, jazakallah khairan. Yes, the sukun on the dal is a qalqala. So we're not supposed to say sad, bad. That's wrong. We're supposed to say sad, bad. So when we go in for the testing from Mizbah, we actually will give a child a mistake on the sad if the child just recites a simple sad. They have to say sad, Dad. So even if they're not lengthening it properly or they're not doing the qalqala and the dal, we will still consider that to be a mistake, right? So anyway, so these are what we call the qaida, and this is the standard in which the qaida should be taught. However, when we learn the alphabets, we learn as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, right? But now the question is, in which sequence should we teach them the letters of the qaida? This is also very important. Let's take a look at it. So this is the sequence of the memorization. Now, anyone here who has experience teaching qaida, if they take one glimpse at the sequence of these letters, they will understand that this sequence of letters is based on the noon sakin qawaid. So we have ikhfa, we have iqlab, then we have ikhfa, then we have idhar, and we have idgham. So the four rules of noon sakin are found here, and the sequence of the letters are based on that. Now you might say, what is the benefit? The benefit is, I'm giving you an example. Suppose we taught the child alif, ba, ta, tha, jim, ha, kha, dal, dal, ra, za, sin, shin, sad, right? And later on, when they were learning the ikhfa lesson, we told them that after noon sakin or tanween, if you have one of the 15 letters of ikhfa, then the noon sakin or tanween will be recited with a slight nasal sound. So the child has to, first of all, understand and learn and memorize the definition of ikhfa. Then they have to separately memorize the 15 letters of ikhfa. So when we tell the child to memorize, he's memorizing ta, tha, jim, ha, kha, dal, dal. We're saying, no, it's ta, tha, jim, dal, dal, za. Again, he's saying ta, tha, jim, ha, kha, dal. So you see that contradiction. So on one side, we taught them a letter in one sequence, and now we're coming back and telling them that erase what you did in the past and come back and learn something new. So that is something that we're trying to avoid. So on one side, the first page is for us to understand the standard of the length and the makharij and the rules of each letter, but the memorization sequence is based on this page. Now, let's take a stop here. Let's go back. If a child was in the beginning of qaida, then majority of the time we spend teaching them together. However, we spend about 20-25 minutes in the beginning of qaida listening to them individually, as some children do come a little bit late, although we have policies in place which ensure that if they come on time, then they should get some prize at the end of the week or end of the month. If they come in with their uniform, basically we call it the student of the month. That means that they came in with their uniform, they came on time. Then we track these two, and their behavior was decent. We track these three, and we try to give those students a prize at the end of the month, so that students are motivated to make sure that that discipline is maintained. Anyway, generally, some students are coming late. So by 5:20, 5:25, if we're individually listening to each student, correcting them where they need correction until they're saying it correctly in front of us, and then we're sending them back. And then from 5:25 to 5:40, we are collectively doing the makharij, but we're doing it on this sequence. Alif, ba, ta, tha, jim, dal, dal, za, sin, shin, sad, dad, ta, tha, fa, qaf, kaf, hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha, ra, lam, ya, mim, wa, nun. So they're doing this on every single day. They're practicing this. Now, here's an interesting thing. Repeat this sequence every single day. Do mashq of the makharij in this pattern until they reach the end of the mim sakin rule. Or let's say noon sakin rule. Until they reach the end of the noon sakin rule in the qaida, we are requesting the teachers to make a point of going over this every single day. However, when we go over this, then we have to go over this with something else in mind. What is that? Let's go back to the schedule. From 5:40 to 6 p.m., or we can say even 5:45 to 6 p.m., there is three things that we want the students to do. One is salam, one is ta'awudh, one is tasmiyah. So because by then everyone is in class, obviously, so we start by saying a perfect salam. So like today, I was just testing one group in one masjid, and actually we're sitting there still now. We saw that the students were saying alif, ba, ta, tha with correct tajweed, but in a'udhu billah, bismillah, they were making mistakes. So I asked this teacher, how long have you had these students? He said, I have had them for 3 months or 4 months, but they learned that a'udhu billah, bismillah wrong somewhere else. So even though 3 months, every single day, I have been practicing 5 minutes on each one. 5 minutes for assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. 5 minutes on a'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim. And 5 minutes on bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Even after 4 months, these children who are 5 and 6 years old, they still didn't get it right. I think out of 10 or 12 of them, only 3 were without mistakes. All of them were making a mistake. So this is common. That means how long will it take for us to iron out these 3 in a perfect quality? I think it will take you about 6 months to even 10 months. That means one academic year in the maktab. So if we don't do salam, ta'awud, and tasmiyah regularly with perfect tajweed, and we practice it separately, independent of anything else, then we will not get perfect quality of that by the end of the year. And again, majority of the masjids will be doing 2 semesters a year. So we want to make sure that at least by the end of the first semester, at least the makharij and salam, ta'awud, tasmiyah is perfected. So recognition, pronunciation of these basic things are done. So we know the foundation of the Arabic language has been put in. Okay, now let's go back to the qaida. I'm just going to very quickly go. So please do try to keep up with me. Because this is not a qaida training, it's just to give you an understanding of the qaida. The training is separately done. You'll have to apply for it separately and get it done because it's 15 hours. So when they come to this part of the qaida, we don't teach them that this is a fatha and fatha has the sound ah. No, we just teach them that this is a fatha bas. What is this called? This is a fatha. Why? Because the line is on top. That's why it's a fatha. What is this? This is a kasra. Why? Because the line at the bottom is kasra. What is that? Dhamma. It's a line on top, but it's upside down. So it's dhamma. Then we say 2 fatha, 2 kasra, 2 dhamma. Then we say noon, fatha, noon, kasra, noon, dhamma. Then we have noon, 2 fatha, or you can say fathatain, noon, 2 kasra, or kasratain, or noon, 2 dhamma, or dhammatain. Then you have the standing dhamma, standing fatha, standing kasra. Make sure you tell them or identify that it's on top, it's on the bottom. It's on top, it's on bottom. Then we say this is called shadda. Don't tell them shadda means a doubling. Don't teach them anything now. Just teach them this is shadda or tajdeed. You send them this is the mud sign, this is the sukun. And then you can say noon has a standing dhamma, noon has a standing fatha, noon has standing kasra. Don't teach them noonani. No. We just want to tell them noon, standing dhamma. What is this? Standing dhamma. What is this? Noon on top, standing fatha. Noon, standing kasra. What is noon with a tajdeed on the top? Noon with a mud sign on the top. Noon with a sukun on the top. That's all they need to learn in terms of the names of each symbol. Now in this, from this lesson onwards, they will learn the sound of those symbols. So for example, in this word, the first word of this page, first box, when we are telling this to a student, we're teaching the student, listen, in this box, what do you see? So the child will say, I see a alif. Then you say, mashallah, you're really smart. So what else do you see in this box? Then he will say, I see a fatha on the box. So then you tell the student, okay, so you know the word alif because you learned it before. You also know the sign, that this is the sign is called fatha. But you don't know what happens if you put a fatha on the alif. So now we have to teach the child 2 things. We have to say that when a fatha appears on an alif, it becomes a hamza. When a fatha appears on an alif, it becomes a hamza. Number 2, whenever you have fatha on hamza, it becomes a. The same thing we do with ba. We say that you know the word ba, you know the on top of the ba you have a fatha sign, but when you put a fatha on top of the ba, the sound that comes out is ba. So technically in this page, we are simply teaching the child everything he knows, only one new thing. Here he's just learning the sound. When you put a fatha on any letter, what is the sound that comes? That's all he's learning. Okay, quiz. Ready for the quiz? In the word dakhala, can anyone tell me how many sounds are there? I'm opening the chat box again. In the word dakhala, how many sounds are there? 3. Okay. Yes, anyone else? 11 sounds, mashallah. This, it looks like Brother Nahid has done this training before. Okay, yes, there's 11 sounds. Let's count. Dal, sound number 1. Fatha, sound number 2. And obviously, when you put a fatha on the dal, the sound that comes out is the, right? Sound number 3. Ha, sound number 4. Fatha, sound number 5. Ha, sound number 6. Dakha, dakha, dakha. We have to do this multiple times. Dakha, dakha, and fast. So they don't make a habit of saying dakha, dakha, which many of the kids do. See, dakha, 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 dakha. So that's sound number 7. Then lam, fatha, la, that's 10 sounds. And dakhala, 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 that becomes 11 sounds. Yes, jazakallah. Now let's go. So imagine if I, as a teacher, when I'm teaching this, in my head, I have this intention that I'm going to teach 11 sounds, and the student also is learning 11 sounds, then tell me, while I'm teaching this lesson, will the child will be able to do anything else? Or will he be completely busy and focused? And if I'm pausing and saying dal, and then fatha, da, then when I'm pausing and I'm looking eye contact, then the child is following with me. Anyway, the same thing, let's go here. Here comes the testing. Remember I said that when we have a perfect plan we know exactly what we want to teach. we also know how we want to teach, and we also have testing in place. Then only will we get perfect results. So this is the box where the testing starts. So the children, they have learned Fatha Kasra Dhamma, they have learned the names of the different symbols, they have learned the joint letters, and they have learned the harakat. Now they have the test. Nowadays, especially from Misbah's side, what we try for Long Island and Queens, we try to make arrangements that every month at least once, or every 6 weeks at least once, we can physically go and visit maktabs and do sampling tests of different students from each class. Our objective is to see where the students are weak and try to give some feedback to the teachers based on our experience overall. From there, we can understand, inshallah, and allow the teacher to increase and improve, so that within the semester exam, which is maybe another 2-3 months later, the children should become perfect in what they have done. Okay? And then I'm just going to spend a little bit more time here explaining the qaida. But again, we're not going to go through the whole qaida. Let's take an example of غاسقين. غاسقين is basically, can anyone quickly tell me in the word غاسقين, how many rules do they think there are in this word? Quickly. How many rules? Anyone? How many rules are there in the word غاسقين? How many rules? 3? Anyone else? غاسقين. 3. 10 plus. No, that's sound. Rules. 2. Jazakallah. Yes. 2 is correct. Let's do it. The 2 rules are fatha before alif. As we see gha, right? Fatha before alif, that's mad asli. That's one rule. And qi, that's also mad asli, right? Gha is also mad asli. Qi is also mad asli. So technically we have 2 rules here. We have what we call the fatha before alif, 1 rule, and we have the kasra before ya sakin, 1 rule. Just give me 1 second, please. Okay, inshallah. So sorry, one brother was trying to join. Okay, coming back. Now let me just tell you the difference in the spelling technique here. If we were to spell as the ghain alif fatha gha, what would happen? What would happen is the students would be forced to look at 2 letters at a time. And we are maybe dealing with 5-6 years old. That means that we want to make sure that we're not putting undue pressure on them. So in this technique, we're actually breaking down the spelling and letting the child look at 1 letter at a time. So we're saying ghain, fatha, gha. Then when we see the next letter, we say, oh, there's empty alif. Okay, fatha before alif is 1 alif long. Fatha before alif, 1 alif long. Gha. Then we say sin, kasra, si. Gha, si. Qaf, kasra, qi. Kasra, and then make sure they say qi, qi, qi. Don't let them say ki. Many kids will try to say ki. Say qi, qi. Then we say غاسقي, kasra before ya sakin, 1 alif long, qi. You see, we are making them say 1 alif long. We're making them say the rule, and we're also making them say the application of the rule. So they have to say fatha before alif. What is the rule? 1 alif long. Then we have kasra before ya sakin. That is the rule. What is it? 1 alif long. So we say qi, noon, fathana, ghasiqina. Since we are making them spell in a broken way, it's very easy for us to tell them, now tell us how many rules. So they can then very easily tell you, okay, the 1 rule is fatha before alif, and the 2nd rule is kasra before ya sakin. The benefit of this is from this point onward of qaida, as we are moving through, they are no longer simply reading it with the correct tajweed and makharij. They are also spelling each one. They're not just spelling each one, but they're also, after spelling each one, they're also counting the rules. Sorry, if there's anyone unmuted, can we just mute, please? Okay, exactly. Okay, now, okay, then we have standing fatha, standing kasra, standing dhamma. Same thing. Lafi, hamza, standing kasra, one alif long. Lam, standing fatha, one alif long. La, la, fa, kasra, fi. Fi, like that. Now, another golden rule. Can everyone please write it down? Remember the first golden rule was? What was the first golden rule? Look inside, point with your fingers, read loudly and slowly, and listen to yourself. The second golden rule is spell and read each word at least 5 times. Spell and read each word at least 5 times with these 4 sifats, and read them without spelling how many times? At least 15 times. At least 15 times. Any teacher who does not do so will find some weakness in the children in one way or the other. Either they will be lazy or unable to spell, or they will be unable to read the same thing without spelling fluently. And we want them to go through qaida in a way that once we are done, we're done. So on a daily basis, we are first allowing 20 minutes, half an hour to listen to their individual lessons, preferably the last 3 lessons. And then we are collectively giving them a lesson. And then we are doing salam, ta'awud, and tasmiyah. Right? In the collective lesson, we can focus every single day with salam, ta'awud, tasmiyah. We should focus on alif to noon, on that sequence. And then we should go to their sabaq page and continue the lesson. If that is a collective class. If that is individual class, means everyone is on individual lessons, then we spend the first 40 minutes listening to their lesson and also giving them individual lessons. And then we spend the next 20 minutes, salam, ta'awud, tasmiyah, and the makharij revision of alif to noon. And then that first hour is done, and then we go into the second hour to do the rest of the subjects, inshallah. Okay, now I just want to go through one other thing, just to give an explanation. Again, remember the testing that takes place once every month or whenever we reach one of these test points. A secondary teacher, besides the teacher who's teaching, must examine the students and give them 98, 99 before they can move on to the next lesson. So that is the standard. In the exams, they can get less than that, but in the semester exams, but in these exams, they cannot get less than 98 or 99. Because this is the standard that we want to make them reach before we move them on. Then, for example, let's take the example of the word ya. You see, instead of saying ya jim fatha yaj, we don't. Again, if I spelled as ya jim fatha yaj, ain lam fatha al yaj'al, then it's in spelling I'm spelling exactly the same way, but on one sakin I'm doing qalqala and one sakin I'm not doing qalqala. And then we expect the children to remember this. And we get upset with them when they make a mistake. So it is very important that we don't do that, and we break it down. We say ya fatha ya fatha ya. The next one is jim. So jim sakin qalqala yaj. Jim sakin qalqala yaj. So now they are doing bouncing sound as soon as they see a qalqala letter. If they don't see a qalqala letter, they won't even say the word qalqala, and they won't bounce. So we say ya fatha ya. جيم ساكن قلقلة يج عين فتحة لام ساكن no قلقلة, so we're not saying قلقلة here, we're saying عين ساكن لام ساكن al. Yeah. Okay, now I'm just going to show you one more example, and then you have to take the training if you think this is beneficial, inshallah. And just to give you a gist of why this training is important. Here it is mim fatha ma noon sakin. Mim fatha ma noon sakin man. Then we say after noon sakin comes letter of iqlab ba. So what will happen? The noon sakin will change into mim and do ghunna. Mam. I'm saying it again. I think it's too complicated. Mim fatha ma noon sakin man. After noon sakin comes letter of iqlab ba. So the noon sakin will change into mim and do ghunna. Even the ghunna, the children have to say ghunna because there is a tashdid there, wajib ghunna. So they say mam, با فتحة با منبأ قا كسرة خي منبخي لام فتحة لا منبخي لا. Okay. Is there any question on the qaida before I move on to the next part of the curriculum? No. Very good. Okay. What I'm just going to do is I'm just going to type in the number. Okay. I'm just going to explain one thing to you. Just make it easier for you. Anyone who has not yet taken the training, what you need to do is you need to send a recording of yourself reciting 2 verses of the Quran from the 10th juz. If you recite, send to this number. I'm putting it down for you. Plus 4444 77 77 66050563. Okay, there you go. So if you can just copy it on your phone and then just send a recording of yourself reciting just two verses from anywhere of the 10th juz and send a recording there, and they will give you the registration for the qaida, which is starting, inshallah, on Saturday for the brothers. Okay. Now I'm just going to hand over to Mufti Abdullah for about a few minutes, and he will just tell you that overall he has tested, I think, over 1,000 students by now in the last couple of months. And he will just give you a brief explanation of fundamentally the difference he found between the students who took the training and those who didn't. I'll just keep the qaida open in case he wants to show something to you also. Also explain how do you do the exams? How do you do the grading?
No, they're not.
Yeah, qaida is me.
Okay.
Explain that also.
Yep. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So over the course of the past few months, we've been taking exams of multiple masajid. These masajid are in Long Island, New York City, New Jersey even. And now, alhamdulillah, we're moving out of state as well. We're moving to different states as well. So over the course of the past few months, both of us combined have taken roughly, I would say, between 2,000 and 3,000 students exams. This is a very rough number. We still have to go through the calculations, but a very low number would be at least 2,000, and a higher number would be 4,000. That's more accurate. So within these few thousand students that we took the exam of, what I've seen is that the teachers that have taken training, the qaida training, and the ones that have applied it, their students over the course of a few months have significantly improved as compared to the teachers and the students that have not taken the qaida training, or even the teachers that have taken the qaida training and they haven't applied it. So they would be in the same group as the teachers that didn't take the training at all. So within the training basically what it does is that it teaches the teacher how to teach the qaida the most effectively and in the shortest amount of time. Our traditional method, what we've learned as students and what we've learned as children when we grew up, was the other method, in which it takes a very, very long time, and you would need a very highly qualified teacher. A teacher that's been teaching for 10, 15, 20 years. Those teachers can teach from the traditional method and they can get by without a problem. The reason is because they have many different techniques that they employ. But the thing is that most of the maktabs and most of the hifz classes, most of the teachers, I would say 90 to 95% of the teachers, especially within America, they're on the younger side, maybe within their 20s, 30s, or 40s. And they don't have this kind of experience. So what this training does is that it makes it so simple for the teacher that if you teach the child like this, they will learn it and they will pick it up and they will absorb it quicker than if you were to teach them in the traditional method. So that's the reason that we recommend the training. By the way, the training is not done by us, MESBA. It's done by a third party. We get no benefit from it. Inshallah, in the future, we will make a training from our own. We will make a training from MES by itself with our own coordinators. But as of now, the training is done by a third party. We receive no benefit of it. So I just want just anyone that's wondering why we recommend the training. The only reason is because we've seen the benefits drastically. For example, let's just take one class in a masjid over here. This is just one class and one teacher. And the teacher is not an alima, the teacher is not a hafila, the teacher is not a muftiya. She doesn't hold any of these titles. But when I go to test those students, and these are girls that are starting from the ages of 5, 6 years old all the way to the ages of uh 16, 17 years old in two different classes, Maktab and Hifz. When the teachers teach them according to the training, if you were to hear these girls, you would say that where did these girls learn from? How are they reciting these letters so correctly, so clearly? How are they reciting with all of the rules? So they read أعوذ بالله من الشيطان with a full mouth, نِرَّجِيم. So every single letter is pronounced correctly. And this is obviously the teacher's effort, which they've put in for many, many months. And after the course of many, many months and putting them through the training, the teachers put the students through the training as well, obviously, then we get that result. Okay, so moving on to the next thing. The next thing I want to share is, as I mentioned, that we took the exam of many, many masajid and many, many different maktabs and hifz programs. We take the tests on mainly this page right here. Within this page, I'll just go over how we take the test and what we expect from the student. So this is where we fill out the date and whether it's a routine assessment. If we go to this masjid regularly, then it's a routine assessment. If it's the first time, then it's the initial assessment. And then we also take the semester exam. So we just mark which one it is. The examiner, it's one of us. The term and the year, the masjid, where we're going to, class group and teachers. We write the student's name right here. So one student, how much progress they've made. If they're on qaida or if they're on the nadra, we just write it right here. Then we test them according to one of these 4 standards right here. The 4 standards are if they're in the beginning of qaida, meaning they've only done a few pages of qaida, they know how to recognize the letters, they know how to pronounce the letters, and they know fatha, dhamma, kasra, and they know the harakat. We'll test them according to level 1. Level 1 means that all of these points for these 4 categories equal up to 100. So going backwards, harakat is 20 points. Makharij would be 40 points for them. Letter recognition and spelling would be 30 points. And salam, ta'awudh, and tasmiyah would be 10 points. If the child is moved on and they're in the middle of qaida, we test them according to test standard number 2, which is 10 points for salam, ta'awudh, and tasmiyah, 20 points for letter recognition, 30 points for makharij, 15 points for harakat, 15 points for mad asli, and 10 points for sukun, tashdid, and huruf. If the student is done with the qaida completely, then we advance qaida. We do 5 points for salam, ta'awudh, and tasmiyah. Spelling and letter recognition, we still expect the student to know how to spell and recognize, obviously, all the letters, 10 points. Makharij, 20 points. You see, as the student moves on from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, the point system, the points for each category decreases. And the reason for that is because we expect the student to know all of the makharij by level 3. If a student is all the way at the end of qaida and they're still not pronouncing qaf correctly, then that means they should not be on standard 3. That means they need to go back to standard 1. If they're not pronouncing ayn correctly, that means they need to go back to the first standard. Harakat would be 15 points over here. Mad asli would be 10 points over here. This category would be 10 points. And then this is where it gets interesting. Now we expect the students to apply all the rules that they've learned, which is all of these rules: qalqala, ikhfa, izhar of nun, ikhfa of nun, izhar of nun sakin, iqlab of nun sakin, idgham of nun sakin, then these meme sakin rules, then ghunna, lam, ra, muttasil, munfasil, lazim, mad arid, madlin, waqf, and how fluent and clear they're reading. So we expect them to know and apply all of these rules at this point. And that would be 20 points for all of these together and 2 points per rule maximum. So for example, if the child is reading and they're skipping out their mad muttasil and munfasil, we would take off 2 points for that. So they would get an 18 out of this if everything else is correct. If they're not doing their ghunna correctly, 2 points off for that. If their ra is not full mouth and empty mouth, they're mixing and matching, we take 2 points off for that. Qalqala, 2 points. So all of these together is 20 points. And we also test on identification. What that means is that students are able to apply the rule of ghunna, but are they able to recognize if this is a ghunna or not? We point to a letter that has a noon mushaddad, a letter with the tashdid, a noon, or a meme, and we say, what is this rule right here? If the child is able to tell us that this is a ghunna, then alhamdulillah. If they're not, then we just write ghunna over here, which means that their identification is weak. Now, the purpose and the reason why we want the kids to be able to identify, not just apply, is because if they're only applying and they're not able to identify, then they're only applying wherever it sounds correct to them. Because they're not able to identify. They don't know if this is a muttasil or munfasil. They don't know if this is a mad lazim, mad arid, mad lin. It just sounds correct to them, so they'll apply it. And we notice that whenever a student does it in that way, wherever it sounds good, they'll do it. Wherever it doesn't sound good, they'll skip it. They only apply it 50 or 60% of the time. The other 40 to 50%, they're not able to identify and apply because they don't know where to apply it. That is the reason we keep some points for identification. So all of these, each row, each standard equals up to 100 points in this way. So these are what all the maktab, every time we come to a maktab and we assess them, this is the sheet that we will use. And then we also, this is only for qaida and nadra. Now we also need the students to, we also expect the students to memorize at least a few surahs. When we come and test and maktab is just starting up and they've gone through a few months of the program, we expect the students to know at least a few surahs. Surah Fatiha, and if they've already done Surah Fatiha, then the last few surahs. When we come for surah memorization, this is also within the same exam. This is another 100 points. Memorization is 50 points. So if they're able to say the Surah Fatiha, Alhamdulillah, until Waladdallin, without stopping, without forgetting, then we give them the 50 points. However, if they're saying Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, they're not pronouncing the ha, they're not pronouncing the ain, they're not pronouncing a few more letters correctly. So we write those over here. That's 25 points. If they're saying Alameen, that means they're not doing mad asli, they're not doing mad arid. We mark that over here. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. If they say ولا الضالين, that means they skipped mad lazim. We mark that over here. So each rule that they skip is 3 points. So that way, it's not just about memorization, it's about the same standards over here. We want to be consistent across the board. We want them to do the same standards over here in their qaida and nadra, and we want them to do the same standards in their surah memorization. And this is the sheet that we use. So whenever we come, inshallah, to any of your maktabs, we will be using this sheet. And so you're familiar with the sheet. So you'll be able to recognize what are the mistakes and how to improve them. Now Mufti Ubaidullah will take over.
Now, one thing I will probably share quickly on the chat box. Is there any question anyone has so far on the grading sheet? So I'm just right now I'm clicking on I'm just typing something for all of you.
What's on here?
Here, that's fine. Sorry. As well. Okay. So if the brothers and sisters can kindly just click on this and request access, I'll give you all of you access, inshallah, okay? So whatever we have shown you, you can actually collect that later. Okay, so we're moving on to the next part of the maktab. So we have completed the qaida. Just give me a second. Yes, I'm giving you all access, inshallah. So in the next, just give me a few seconds here. Okay, so everyone who requested access has access so far, inshallah. If there's more, then I'll have to do more. If there's more, no, I think everyone is covered. Okay, let's go to the next part of the qaida. Next part of the maktab. Remember, we mentioned there are 4 components of the maktab. One is the qaida that goes on to tilawa. Okay, so here's, remember I told you, I will show you how the qaida is taught. And then I'll also show you how the testing is done. And then I'll also show you how from the qaida, a person goes into the Quran, right? I'm just going to give you an example. Let's take a new tab. Surah Nas. Let's do Surah, yeah, let's do Surah Nas. That's the first surah you'll do probably after Fatiha. Okay. So suppose the students, they finished the qaida, they passed the final exam, they know every single rule already. So as we say, doing 2 birds in 1 stone, they know how to read. They also know why they are reading in a particular manner. They also know the rules. So for example, here, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. So technically, there towards the end, there's 2 rules. We have the noon, which is the noon mushaddad, which is wajib gunna, and we have the nas, which is basically mad alif waqfi. So once they come into the Quran, we will make them spell and read for the last 25 surahs. The last 20 to 25 surahs, we'll make them spell and read. I'm giving you an example. Qaf, dhamma, qu, lam, sakin, qul, hamza, fatha, qul, ayn, dhamma, dhamma before, aw, sakin, and alif, lang, qul, a'u, dhal, dhamma, dhu, qul, a'udhu, ba, kasra, bi, qul, a'udhu, bi, ra, fatha, ra, ba, tashdid, rabb, ba, kasra, bi, noon, tashdid, bin. But here, when they say noon, tashdid, they have to say noon, tashdid, wajib, gunna, bin. In Rabbi, they say Ra Fatha Ra, Ba Tashdid Rabb, Ba Kasra Bi, Noon Tashdid, Wajib Gunna Bin. So he's a Rabbi, and then Rabbin, then Noon Fathana, Fatha before Alif and Alif long, Na, Rabbin, Na, Sin Kasra Si, Rabbin Nasi. Then you say stop. Due to stopping, the Mad Tab'i will change into Mad Arif, 2 Alif, 3 Alif long, whatever long you want to make it, and you say Rabbin Nas. In this manner, so in this manner, they will spell and read 5 times with spelling, 15 times without spelling. You have to maintain the same standard. Here, what would happen after every 6 surahs? After every 6 surahs or 5 surahs that you teach the students, you should send them to the examiner for the testing. Examiner can either be someone from outside, like for example, when we come from Mizbah, or it can be someone other than the teacher who's teaching. So if I am the teacher teaching, then the other teacher should do the testing. If the other teacher is teaching, then I should go and do the testing. And then I should be, when we're testing, we have to be very, very, as we say, just, fair, but kind to the child. But kindness does not mean that we don't identify the mistakes that the child is making. So we tell the child, mashallah, you're really good, but you have to just make a little bit improvement in your ayn. Your ayn has to become a little bit better. So the child knows, okay, I'm really good, but I have to fix this. And then you come back and inshallah, you'll do even better. So do we tell that to the child? But when we come to the teacher with the document which Mufti Abdullah showed for testing, we have to make sure that the teacher understands exactly where the weaknesses are, and then they can fix that weakness over the period of next 1 week, 2 week, whatever time they need, inshallah, okay? So in this manner, after 25 surahs, you stop spelling. For example, when they're doing Surah Shams, Duha, or Surah Balad, you're doing without, they're doing without spelling. But whenever you have La Uqsimu, you're asking the child that, son, why did you make it so long? So the child has to tell you that because after Mad Tab'i comes Hamza number 1, Mad Tab'i will become Mad Munfasil 3 alif long. So in this manner, you can time and time, you can keep on asking questions on why you're doing ghunna, why you're doing mad, why you're not doing ghunna, why you're not doing mad. But the child has to read without spelling. And randomly, obviously, now their spelling is done, but they have to still read without spelling at least 10 times each ayah. We have seen technically the students who are, even though they're looking inside, pointing fingers, average students, if they're reading it less than 10 times, even without spelling, it doesn't become very fluent. So at least 10 times, even 15 times, you can continue that standard until they go on. The benefit of this would be, once they finish the 30th juz, you can test them from Surah Yasin and they'll be able to read it slowly. In this manner, once they finish 29th, then you can test them from Surah Baqarah and they will read faster. So as we go along, you'll see the students are getting faster and faster to a point you'll be able to make them finish the Quran maybe 5 to 10 pages per day. Now, my question to all of you is, this, I want to make sure everyone is awake again. Once the student has completed the Quran Nadhara, what do you think we should do next? Let's see what we can get some feedback from the teachers. What do you think we should do next? Yes. After they have finished the Nadhara in this template, maybe they are 9 years old, 8 years old, maybe 11, 10 years old. What should we do next? Any feedback would be appreciated. Bismillah, let's see what we have. Hifz, mashallah. Okay, yes. Anyone else? Any other opinion? No other opinion? Okay, let me ask you another question then. Make them repeat it again from the beginning. Mashallah. Okay, now let me ask this question. Suppose we want to make them do hifz. How do we know the child is capable of memorizing the Quran? Shouldn't we create a testing model that if the child goes through this test or trial, and then we can confirm the student actually has a capacity of memorizing? What do you think? We should do create some type of a buffer zone between the nadhara and the hifz to make sure that the child has a capability? Yes or no? What do the brothers and sisters think? Should we create something in between or not? Yes, we should. So here's what we usually do. Every summer, July and August, for New York, and for out of New York, it could be somewhere June and July also. Every summer, we have summer camps, right? Or many of the maktabs, they just keep the same timetable, but they don't have, they end the curriculum by June. So during summer, they are trying to put the students into a certain level. So in September, they can join a batch, which is actually according to their level. In summer, if you have about, say, 5 weeks or 6 weeks of class, if you have 6 times 5, that's 30, right? So if we have 5 days a week, 6 weeks, or we have 7 weeks, 4 days a week, 30, we need 30 class days. In these 30 class days, we want the student to memorize one of 2 surahs. I personally prefer Surah Kahf, but some ulama, they say you can even try Surah Yusuf. Pretty much both are the same size. So either Surah Kahf or Surah Yusuf. We see if the child can memorize with new lesson and attached lesson, sabaq sabqi, every single day. If the child can memorize by the end of summer this surah, we know that this child will be able to do hifz. If we see a student was not able to reach that, then we know that the student will struggle. How much will they struggle? We'll see based on how well they memorize and how much they retained. So this is very crucial if we want a very smooth progress going onwards, right? Okay. Now, let us go to the next part of the syllabus. We said Qaida Nadhara, and we explained how Nadhara can go into Hifz trial, and from Hifz trial, they can go into Hifz, right? Whoever needs extra on Hifz, there's Hifz resources under the access I have given you. You are welcome to go into that, inshallah, and look. Okay, now let's go to the next question. What do you want to see next? Which part of the Maktab should I cover now? Should I cover the memorization, or should I cover the Islamic studies? Which one should I cover first? We'll look at the curriculum. Okay, Islamic studies. Okay, no problem. Let's do Islamic studies. Okay, so we're going to do a few things. We are going to cover the curriculum. We are going to cover the testing method, and we're going to cover the practicals, and we're also going to cover how we are going to engage with the parents. So there's 4 things here. Please note it down. We're going to cover the syllabus. We'll take a glimpse at the syllabus. We will cover how it should be taught, how it should be planned and taught. We'll go over how the assessment should be done, and we'll go over how we can engage the parents. Okay, Bismillah, let's start. First of all, the glimpse at the syllabus. The syllabus has 7 subjects. One is fiqh, one is hadith, one is seerah, one is tarikh, is the Islamic history, one is aqidah, one is akhlaq, Islamic character, and one is adab, which is etiquettes and manners, the sunnah methodology. So each one, if you look carefully, fiqh goes from 5 pillars of Islam all the way to getting married and even doing business. Hadith, there is 85 hadith in these 6 grades, which go from feeding the hungry all the way to people of Jannah, Jahannam, ghiba, sweetness of Iman, power of Allah, rights of a Muslim, etc., etc. In Sirah, it goes from the childhood of Rasulullah ﷺ till his farewell pilgrimage. It goes through his entire shama'il, his descriptions and his many of his characteristics. It goes through the life of Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali radiallahu anhu ajma'in. It goes through the lives of the Ummahat al-Mu'minin, and that is the end of Sirah. Remember, this is from level 1 to level 8, which is basically 13 years old, right? Kindergarten to 13 years old. Then you have Tarikh. Tarikh is history, which goes through the prophets Adam alayhi salam all the way to Isa and Ayub alayhi salam. And it also goes to the recent history of Banu Umayyah, Banu Abbas, Muslims in Spain, the Crusaders, and the Ottoman Empire. In Aqidah, it goes from the basic qualities of Allah, amantu billahi wa malaikati, signs of Qiyamah, our Aqidah regarding the Sahaba, Isra Mi'raj, and it goes upon to the discussion of the concept of Istiwa al-Arsh, Iman, and also the concept of Taqdeer. In Akhlaq and Adab, it goes into 40 different akhlaqs, and each akhlaq is actually pretty detailed. For example, if we look into the respecting, in respect, they will go over scenarios of respecting the parents, respecting the teacher, respecting the tools of knowledge, respecting knowledge itself. So even though it just seems like one topic, but inside one topic, there are stories, practical scenarios, so the children can actually apply with that part. Basically, that akhlaq should become part of the child's life, basically. And then we have the adab. The adab is sunnah, method of eating, drinking, sleeping, etc. It goes all the way to buying, selling, and even getting married and debating. So this is a glimpse at the overall syllabus for the 8 years, right? The first 8 years or until 13 years old. Now the question is, how does the practical work and how often should we do it? Let's go back to the timetable. In the timetable, as you can see, we had qaida. We explained the combo of individual and collective. Then we said salam, da'awah, tasmiyah, and alif to noon. Then we talked about, we haven't gone to memorization. So we're talking about Islamic studies now. So as you can see, there's a timetable for Islamic studies about 30 minutes every day. And then, so in this 30 minutes of Islamic studies, what do we have to do? We have to do a few things. In these 2 hours of Islamic studies, as you can see, we have Islamic studies, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The last day of the week, which is Friday for many, Thursday for many, we have revision and practicals. This is important. Revision and, can you see here? Revision and practicals. Now the question obviously is, even snacks is practical. We make them go over the etiquettes of sunnah of eating, actually. So revision and practical means everything they have covered within that particular week, that day should be kept for a revision. So if we have 30 minutes, we're using 15 minutes for recapping everything we covered, the main concepts. And then we are doing the practicals, which goes into back to the curriculum. Let's go back to the curriculum now. So let's take a look at year 1. In year 1, you have the wudu. So definitely wudu is one practical, right? Then in the hadith, you have feeding the hungry, helping others. Helping others is definitely a practical action. Cleanliness is also definitely a practical action. Truth falls under akhlaq. Doing things slowly also falls under habit, akhlaq. Feeding the hungry is also something. So feeding the hungry, helping someone else, and cleanliness, these are all practical things that can practically be done. Then you have the seerah. Then you have the stories. Then you go into respect, cleanliness, politeness in speech, smiling, starting from the right side. Each of these a'mal can be made into a project and can be practically done. One day practical, we can tell everyone that we're going to give everyone salam and we're going to smile at each other. This is our practical for that day. And then we teach them, this is how you have to smile to your mom. This is how you have to smile to your dad. This is how you smile with your brothers and sisters in the same manner, same way. So these are things which you can practically do. Then you have eating, drinking, sleeping, waking up, and using the bathroom. My brothers and sisters, each one of these is practical. Tell me if you think this is not practical. This is practical, right? So when we say practical, even though effectively we have only kept 1 day a week for this, but technically it is something, if we plan it out throughout the year, we have so many practicals to do that we ourselves will never get bored. And if we are not bored, the kids will never get bored as well, inshallah, okay? Okay, number one. Number two, I'm going to actually show you the book itself. Okay, this is a glimpse at the book itself. Which book do you want to see? Which book quickly? Make sure again everyone is awake. Which book should I open? Book one, two, three. Book one, okay. Bismillah. Ready? So as you can see, the subjects fiqh, hadith, sirah, tarikh, aqaid, akhlaq, adab. So every book actually will give you the full syllabus, but we want to skip through that and go into one lesson. Right. So, okay. So suppose we want to teach the students fiqh. In fiqh, we have to first make sure the students understand the learning objectives. What are we going to learn in fiqh in this particular book? We'll learn the pillars of Islam. We will learn what is tahara and how to apply tahara. And we'll also learn the method of wudu, which is one application of tahara. So now let us go into the term planner. So I have to actually do a combo between this and this so that we can gauge the two. So fundamentally, the first most important thing to do is map out the syllabus here. Suppose we made a calendar. In the calendar, we have maybe 180 days of class, or say 200 days of class. And our target is with the age group that we have, we want to complete the entire book one with that age group, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 5 parts of fiqh. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of hadith. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 parts of sirah, 2 stories of the tarikh, 3 parts of aqidah, and we have 5 parts of akhlaq, 5 parts of adab. So we do the math and then we figure out, okay, if I have 180 days of class and I want to distribute this into the classes, then I can either make a week by week plan or I can make a month to month plan. Teachers sometimes ask this question, can I teach 1 week fiqh, 1 week hadith? Yes, you can. Can I teach 1 day fiqh, 1 day hadith? Yes, you can. Which one should I choose? Choose the one that your kids are able to grasp easier. Every single class is different. Some teachers, they saw the switching around is helpful. Some teachers, they said, no, we saw just focusing on one, completing one, passing the exams of one is more appropriate. So that's what they did. So look at this schedule, go into the Maktab term syllabus planner, and you can either put week by week or you can put month by month, how much Quran you expect them, or let's start from dua. How many duas you expect them to memorize month to month? How much of the Islamic studies you want to complete with your students month to month? So you can actually map yourself based on your class for the whole year. If you have 10 months, you can put 10 months instead of 13, and you can map out month to month. And then every month when we have the meetings, or you have a staff meeting, you can go over the actual plan you made beginning of the year and versus where you actually are. If you see you are way behind, then it's time to maybe rethink strategy. If you have gone too far ahead, maybe it's time to plan on how to finish it quickly if the kids know it and move on to the next book after the exams, right? So you look at this, you make you put the plan here. We have a question here, 1 and 2. Okay, sorry. Let me just quickly go to back to dashboard, and then we go into the actual delivery of the books. So again, remember this is one book, which is a course book, and then it comes with the workbook. Please do not give anyone any homework for home. Do not give them homework for home. The parents have sent them to you and me because they expect their Islamic studies to be done here. We do have work for their home, and I'll explain to you in a bit what we have for them. So explain the concept of Shahada. Make them open the workbook to the lesson of Shahada. Ask them questions ahead of time based on whatever the questions are in the workbook. Ask them certain questions in different ways beforehand, and make sure they're all understanding it and explaining it correctly before you allow them to open the workbook and complete the workbook. That entire explaining, Q&A, maybe sometimes having one student explain to another student because sometimes they understand their language, eventually having them open the course book, complete the course book, everything should be done within the time that we have allocated for Islamic studies in the class. Okay, now next question I'm pretty sure you have is, how do we do the exams for the Islamic studies? It's very easy. You need to create examandnasiha.home. As you can see here, just search on Google exam and nasiha. It will bring you here. You can sign up or log in. I'm just going to log in. I have already a password. Once I log in, I can go in and, okay, so I'm going to show you two things. Suppose you are an administrator, right? Okay, so once you make a file, you go to administrator, you go to access management, you go to user management, and here, as you can see, we have how many? We have all these users under my name. So these are all different teachers of Masjid Bilal, or they were previously Masjid Bilal teachers. So like this, you can, every single teacher can use their own email, and they can use their own password and log in and go into the profile. Okay, let's build a paper. So I was showing you course book 1. I was only teaching you, showing you fiqh, right? And you search here. There are 42 ready-made questions from book 1 fiqh. So you go into, for example, we just completed Shahada, right? So you complete easy, as you can see, easy, 1 mark, 1 minute easy. 6 marks, 5 minutes hard. 2 marks, 2 minutes easy. Now I have 3 questions, 8 minutes, 9 marks. I can now export it. I can put a heading for the exam paper subtitle. I can download as a Word or a PDF. Once I export, the main page will have the Masjid Bilal logo for this, because I made it for Masjid Bilal profile. And everything else will be based on the questions I put there. So if you put as a Word, you can download the Word and make some additional questions, and that's it. So technically, that's how easy it is to create a question paper, and it's for free. Just use the Bronze account and it's for free. Okay, so I showed you what the Islamic studies is. I showed you how to teach Islamic studies. I showed you how to do the assessments. There's just one part I didn't tell you. Can anyone remind me which part of the Islamic studies I didn't explain? Yes, if you don't tell me, I won't tell you. Which part of the Islamic studies I didn't explain? I told you I'll give you 4 parts. I only gave you 3 of the 4. Which part of Islamic studies I didn't explain? Did anyone? Come on, someone has to know it. I told you I'm going to break down Islamic studies into 4 parts. One part was the curriculum itself. One was how to plan and deliver. One was how to do the assessments. And there's one part that I told you, I will tell you. Jazakallah khairan. Addressing the parents. Yes. Basically, let's go to the homework now. Now, imagine we taught them the 5 pillars of Islam, or we taught them how to make wudu in the masjid, right? In the maktab. So they now know how to make wudu. We tested them. They did the workbook. They filled out the workbook. They practically did the wudu. We know how they know how to make wudu. Now, how do you address or engage the parents in the wudu of the child? Here is where we need the parents' WhatsApp groups. Usually use WhatsApp for the use of easiness. Otherwise, you can use any app as long as the parents are comfortable with it. We have WhatsApp groups, which is only teachers, only admin post. So the parents, they cannot directly message in that particular group. In that group, on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, you should put a report that, mashallah, today we have completed the method of making wudu. Your kids know how to make wudu. Their homework is they have to make wudu before you for every day before Maghrib Salah. Every day before Maghrib Salah, they have to make wudu and show you how to make wudu. And then you have to approve their wudu. You see, you might say that what is the objective? The objective is maybe the parents, they don't know how to make wudu. There are so many parents, I'm telling you, they don't know how to make wudu. We might think all the parents come from the same religious background. No. Many parents, they just put their only connection with Islam is their kids. They are Muslims, so they want their kids to learn some Quran. And that's why they brought their kids to the masjid. So you want to make sure that whatever we have taught the kids, the parents are forced kind of, because of their love for the child, to actually observe their kids doing it. Right? Same way, if you have taught them the hadith of helping others, at that point, you should actually tell the parents that we have done a hadith of helping others. We have done a practical scenario XYZ, and we would like you as a parent to also help them do something along those lines and give us some feedback on what project you have done with your child on this particular scenario. So the engagement of the parents is purely by telling them to help their kids apply this knowledge in their lives. And with that, we hope that the parents will also learn some deen and they will become more closer to Islam, inshallah. Okay? Is that good? Okay, now tell me, which component of the syllabus of the Maktab curriculum have I not explained yet? Yes. And that's the last part. Let's see. Let's see, what is that? Memorization. Excellent. Jazakallah khairan. Let's go to memorization. So in the memorization, I'm going to show you the Ijmali syllabus, the overall curriculum. I'll also show you the actual book. 1 second. Let me show you the book. Let me show you the actual book. Okay. I gotta show from here. Okay. So let us go to the syllabus. So you see, there are two categories of students who are coming into the Maktab. One category of the students are those who are going to stay in the Maktab period. Oh, I forgot one part of the syllabus. In Islamic studies, I showed you the syllabus up to 8th grade. I haven't shown you anything further, right? This is the second part of the syllabus. It's called the further studies. What is the further studies? So students who come to you at the age of 15, 14, 15 plus. Their syllabus is that they learn about the essentials. There's a book, it's called Further Studies. So this book can continue if you do every Sunday. You can continue with this book for about 2 years. And then, inshallah, they will learn all this. They'll learn about Aqidah, Tahara, Salah, Dua, the Islamic calendar, Seerah, timeline of Islamic history. Under faith and belief, they will learn the attributes of Allah, believing in Allah, evil and suffering, proofs of prophethood, the final revelation, and the search for the truth. In devotional acts, they will learn khushu' in Salah, understanding Salah, Nawafil, Salah for Musafir, Jum'ah, Sawm, and Hajj. Then under the heading of Muslim identity, they will learn expression of faith, characteristics of a believer, the prophetic example, self-reformation, mental health, Muslim contributions, Muslims around the world. So as you can see, like contemporary issues. Then you have living as a Muslim in the West, for example. So family life and bringing Islam into the family, living as a Muslim in the community, living as a Muslim in a masjid setting, the aspect of free mixing, because we have schools and so many other things where free mixing happens, and how to navigate through that as a Muslim, marriage, death, and bereavement, right? Like ta'ziyat. And then you have money and wealth, which is extremely like the hot topic of all the youth nowadays. How to earn halal, or basically how to make a lot of money, but we want to teach them in the halal way. Zakah and sadaqah. Islamic finance and economics, like which is of course non-riba based versus the riba based system that's going on. Investments and what is halal, what is haram, and overall inheritance. So this is a very good book, which is the next part of the Islamic studies curriculum. Okay, so just for your knowledge. Anyway, so first of all, question: what is the purpose of the memorization? Can anyone quickly remind me? Shortcut, short answer. What is the purpose of memorization? We only have about 8 minutes to go. We have to finish quickly, inshallah. What is the purpose of memorization? Anyone? Bismillah. Yes. Anyone? If we don't know the goal, if we don't plan the goal, then we will not see the results. So what do you think is the goal of the memorization? To recite the surahs in Salah? Yes, that's one of the goals. Okay. One of the goals is to learn enough surah so a person can recite them in Salah, right? That's one of the goals. The second goal is a Muslim to function as a Muslim and engage his 24-hour life in some type of ibadah. So to give a Muslim so much ilm, knowledge of the Quran and du'as, that in his 24-hour life, from the time he is born till he dies, from the time he wakes up until he sleeps, his 24 hours is in some form of ibadah. So as you can see in the surah, for every Muslim child, whether they will become hafiz or not, we want them to memorize Surah Fatiha, the last about 20 plus surahs, until Surah Duha, then the last 2 ayahs of Surah Baqarah, first 10, last 10 of Surah Kahf, the last 2 of Surah Hashr, Wallahu alladhi la ilaha illahu, Surah Yasin, the entire Surah, Surah Sajdah, Surah Mulk, Surah Waqi'ah, and also in the new edition they have Surah Rahman. So they are learning these surahs with the translation, right? With the translation. So not only are they applying these surahs in their salah, they're also reciting the daily surahs regarding which lots of reward has been mentioned in the Quran. So their daily life has some Quran in it on a daily basis, mashallah. Then du'as also from the first kalima. Then you have drinking milk, waking up. Then you have du'as of salah. You have the du'as for visiting the sick, protection against evil eyes, marketplace, all the way until istikhara, qunut, etc. And then you have all the names of Allah. So here, I'm going to take a pause here and try to explain that again. Remember in the syllabus, what did we say? We said that in the timetable, you have qaida, you have salam, you have the qaida, individual qaida, collective, salam, ta'awud, tasbih, makharij, you had the memorization. So in the memorization here, as you can see, there's about roughly between 10 to 15 minutes allocated for memorization every day, right? 10 to 15 minutes allocated. What does that mean? That means every day, if we try to do both, it will be difficult. So we should focus on one at a time. We should focus on one at a time, and we should teach it to them collectively. You might say that what does it mean by collectively? For example, when they're learning Surah Fatiha, they have to learn Surah Fatiha, as Mufti Sahib mentioned earlier. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So they have to learn in that pattern. Suppose someone is just learning, struggling in Makharij, and I'm telling the child, go and memorize Surah and come back. Do you think it's possible for someone who's learning Makharij to go and memorize surahs on their own? Obviously not. They don't even know how to read. So before Makharijs are completed, it's not even permissible to teach surah. You have to finish Makharij first, and then you're allowed to teach the surah. Yes, if they know the Makharij, but now you're improving the Makharij, that's fine. That's a different story. So they're learning the Surah Fatiha in this pattern, where maybe it might take them maybe even 3 months, 4 months to memorize Surah Fatiha. Why? Because one day you're doing Surah Fatiha, one day you're doing Masnoon Dua. In Masnoon Dua, for example, let's go back to the syllabus. In Masnoon Dua, suppose you're doing the first kalima. If we teach the first kalima is La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, that is not first kalima. That's, I don't know, so that's gibberish. First kalima is La ilaha. Why is it La? Because mad munfasil. Illallahu. Why is it illallahu? Because before Allah you have fatha, it's full mouth. Then you have Muhammadur. Why is it Muhammad? Because mim has a mushaddad, the wajib gunna, according to the qaida rule. Rasulullah. Why is it so long? Because it's madda ali dhakhfi. So technically there is like 4 or 5 rules in just in kalima tayyiba. So what I'm saying is, one day if we're doing Surah Fatiha collectively, one day kalima, one day Surah Fatiha, one day kalima, then it might take them, then once kalima will be done, Surah Fatiha will continue, they'll go dua before starting something, and etc. So when the student is young, between the age of 5 and 6, then they have very little Islamic studies. They're spending majority of their Islamic studies time also learning the surah and dua. Remember this, right? So young kids, they're spending majority of their Islamic studies too in the surah and dua. And so this is the curriculum. The method of teaching is collectively together. The way of assessing is whenever we have the monthly assessments of the qaida, we assess also the surah and dua. The last part was how to engage the parents. Every time you teach them something, please try to send a recording. If it's a mother's group, sisters can send a recording of themselves reading that Fatiha, that dua, or that surah. Or if it's a mixed group, you can send a recording of someone else with good tajweed reading, and you can say, this is what we have covered. They have to read to you in this standard. What is their goal? The goal is they have to say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Their homework is reciting this 10 times before sleeping. That's it. What is dua before starting something? Is that Bismillah. What is their homework? They have to recite this 10 times before sleeping. So imagine that whole week they're learning that dua, and that whole week they're reading it 10 times before sleeping. What would be the result? The result would be the parents will also start learning it, and they'll also start reading. So you have not just brought these du'as into the child's life, you have brought it into the parent's life. That is the goal. Yes, I'm done with the syllabus. I explained the practicals. I explained the timetable. I explained the document which you can use for planning the syllabus. We showed you the template for doing the testing, and we even showed you the exam portal. Is there anything else anyone would like to see? We have 2 more minutes. Or any other questions? You can even unmute yourself and ask. I will stop. Yeah. If you want, I can stop recording, or you can record the answers as well. Or you can type the questions. Because we have lots of in-house testing, we don't have, like before, we would have 3 semester exams. Right now, we have condensed it to just 2 semester exams. So in our official calendar, we have 2 semester exams. 1 week before the exams, or 2 weeks before the exams, we allow the teachers to stop new lessons and start revision. Then we have the actual exams by external examiners. Then we give the teachers about 1 to 2 weeks to prepare the students from whatever they have learned for presentations. And we try to do a presentation combined with the parent-teachers conference after the first term exam and the second term exam in the first 2 years, 2 to 3 years. Once the parents get used to it, and then we are getting students to come into the HIFZ trial and start the HIFZ program, at that point, we kind of decrease the programs to once a year. But we do have the PTC, and we do give gifts as necessary, as required. Yeah. And then what else did I miss out? Books. Where can you buy the books? You can buy the books at Maktab al-Rahma. I'm just showing you the bookstore. They're Long Island based, and they usually give a good price based on the other compared to other bookstores. And if you buy in bulk, they give you percentage-wise discount, alhamdulillah. So you can get it from them. The basic qaida also, they're the only sole distributor in America for the basic qaida, which comes with the training. So you can get that here as well, inshallah. Any questions? That's about it, inshallah. Take it. Okay, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. May Allah reward all of you for joining, and may Allah accept from us and you. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallahumma bihamdik. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.